So here are all the birds back again, which means all the ripples, I already started hitting them. I could pull my kayak over the water. I mean, it floats across, but not with my body weight in it. This is a huge, long island right here. And debating whether to take the right or the left. I think I'm going to take the right just for the fact that all the birds are on the left, so maybe the water on the right is a little bit deeper. But I can already see grass growing up in it and everything. It just tells me that the riverbed is right up there by the surface. So this is going to be a long walk if it stays this way, because that island looked to be close to a mile long. I should probably just scrap this, but I just hate not to do what I said I was going to do. I mean, I won't not do the Maumee, and I won't not make the final connection, but doesn't have to be this weekend. But it takes a whole lot to get me to just change course like that. So as long as there's a slim chance of still making my takeout, making the route this weekend, I'll trudge on. I mean, it's nothing new. It's like same thing that the fur traders had to do, or the Native Americans or whatever, when they had to go somewhere. When the water was low, they pushed the canoes over the water surface till they got back into good water. Builds character. Yeah, let's go with that. But I don't think I mentioned earlier, put enough emphasis on walking in the river. I mean, obviously you can see this is like 6 inches deep in a lot of the spots, and little to no flow. I mean, it might have a 1/4 mile an hour flow to it, but walking in moving water is definitely a very high risk activity. So don't do what I do. So some good news, a couple of fishermen just showed up right down at that gap by the island. So I'll be able to ask them what the water level's like down there. Insider information. So good to have conversations with locals. This guy said the water's deep for at least a mile ahead, and I hit a train bridge, and then it's going to be shallow, deep kind of setup. But he said once I hit the Maumee bridge, it'll be deep from that point all the way out to the lake. And he said the Maumee bridge is only like 4 or 5 miles out. So gives me a glimmer of hope. I won't be anywhere near my original takeout time. I'll have to readjust that when I text Angie. But 4 or 5 miles. This first mile will be easy paddling. So that only leaves me with 3 or 4 miles of paddle a half mile, walk a half mile, paddle a half mile, walk a half mile. Hey, there's another good site, powerboat. I was just talking to people at the metro parks. They rent out these like stone cabins right on the river's edge. And I guess that's at the 22.8 mile marker for the Maumee Water Trail. So here's one of those shelters that I was telling you about that you can rent from Toledo Metro Parks. I guess they got 3 of them they rent, and then the other one's too close to the power lines, and the electricity crackle is too annoying for a peaceful night. But yeah, it's a pretty cool setup. And I think that guy's mileage was off, because I'm more than a mile and I still don't see a railroad bridge. So that's good news. The longer that bridge is away, the more free water I have, the more mileage I can get in. Well, that boater's mileage might have been off, but his assumption and assessment of the water wasn't. You can already see grass tufts growing all the way across the water. pterodactyl, relax. And all the birds in the water, which means they're just standing there in a few inches of water, trying to catch minnows that will go by. I'm gonna stop up here, make some lunch. Probably about 10 miles in, I think. So more than a third of the way through. Then I have to see how its mileage was. He said I'd have a mile of good water, but I've had a lot more than a mile. Maybe like 1 3/4, close to 2 actually. And he said the low water is for another 4 miles or so past this bridge. Could easily be a whole lot more than that. But don't know till I get there. That's the old saying, without the unknown, adventure would never be possible. So there's no sense. I'm stuck on rock right here. I'm gonna have to start walking after this point. Not gonna bother dragging the kayak all the way over to the shore just to fix lunch. I'll just do it right here. It's been a rough go this morning. Coming off a real rough go yesterday. So some serious decisions to be made. I walked from basically that big huge log that's back there up to here. Grabbed a piece of a huge rock for a seat from this old falling down railroad bridge. And this is what lies ahead of me in my immediate future. I mean, that's a long walk there in itself. The riverbed's changed also. It's not the flat shelves that it was. It's becoming a lot more coarse and jagged. And being tired, my foot placement has not been great. Haven't actually taken a fall, but definitely making me think about taking my own advice. Sometimes you have to let the adventurous spirit take a back seat to intelligence. So I'm definitely going to have to figure out a different plan. I'm going to slow the pace down, be as careful as I can. There's no way I'm going to make it to that takeout. It's like 1:30 and I'm only 10 miles in. If I had flat water to paddle, yeah, I could just paddle harder, make it there before dark. But that's not the case. I'm gonna have to come up with a different evac plan and then see what that mileage is like. If I can make that mileage tomorrow out to the lake, or if I just cut it into 2 parts instead of my original plan of doing it all this weekend. It's kind of a drag. I tell you what though, Ricky is in the right spot, riding around in an ATV somewhere. He would not want any part of this sufferfest. I don't either, but I find myself in the middle of it. I wouldn't label it all as a sufferfest. There's a lot of nice paddling yesterday. All right, well, I will take a look at Google Maps. I will walk down beyond that bend there and make a plan from there. So while I was taking lunch under this bridge, I found something so odd. Here's a couple of pictures of it. It's actually called Pectinatella magnifica, which is pretty cool. It's a colony of organisms that bind together, basically a large filter feeder that filters microscopic things from the water. And a lot of times it's attached to things like this big piece of rock that would never move and shelters it from the strong currents, seeing it was on the backside of the rock. But almost like a gelatinous kind of texture to it. It was the first one I ever saw in the river. I guess they can get up to like 2 foot in diameter. This one was a pretty good size, but it was pretty interesting to see. So I drug down around that bend, then I drug a whole lot further, letting the kayak float beside me as I just walked it. Slowed the pace, slowed my step, took it a lot more careful, I guess, and actually got into some water that I can float on, even though it's only about 10 to 12 inches deep. See what's up here, because I see a whole bunch of birds, but maybe the center pass is clear. The Maumee Water Trail. I was talking to a couple of fishermen back there, and then they said that when it rains it gets really, really high, but when it doesn't rain, this is the normal level for the river. Uh-oh, on a big old rock. Which just begs the question of if we're gonna name it a water trail, nope. This is right, just I'm gonna get out and push this. So I got hung up on that rock right there. But the fishermen were saying that the water is always at this level unless it rains. So I guess back to complaining, if this is going to be a water trail and you control the flow of the water into it, maybe you should do releases and let people know that, hey, if you want to paddle this and actually not drag for half miles at a time, come on these gates when we're going to release more of the water than usual. You know what I mean? Or at least just say, hey, it has to be at this level of water in order to get through. Oh, I'm stuck again.